Well, good morning and greetings here from live from the GCCM in Dubai, and welcome to the Care Community Webinar Live. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the role of the data centers in the region to meet future demand and the green data center financing, because it's becoming a bigger and bigger topic. So we're going to address that, of course, and we have a specialist here live with me, next to me, actually. To move on, I mean, we have quite some people in the panel here, but also virtually. So I'll give a quick word to in a moment to introduce themselves. So if I may start with you, Fahad, welcome. Please, a quick introduction from your side, if you want to.
Yeah, this is Fahad Al-Harthi, Omantel, Manager Hub and Colocation, also with more focus of capacity sales. Also the focal point for business development of Equinix data center in Oman. We call it MC1. Okay,
thank you very much. And later we're going to hear more from you with the nice presentation you're going to share with us and all around. So Robert, welcome to you as well.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Robert Wallen. I'm a managing director in the telecom sector group at Natixis. And Natixis is the corporate and investment banking arm of the BPC group. We are based predominantly, our head office is in Paris, but we are also having a global presence. The telecom and technology financing activities, M&A, advisory, etc. We are covering that from our sector group with presence both in Asia as well as in Americas. I'll be happy to speak a little bit about how we look on data centers and green financing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have you, Robert. So let's go here live from Dubai. Let's go all the way. I mean, it's almost a 7-hour flight to Singapore. So Kevin, welcome.
Hi, hello. Nice to see you all at the conference, and so I'm sorry I can't be there, but thank you for inviting us. So my name is Carvin, and I'm the CEO of the new data center operator called Data Center First, and we are backed by Gall Capital Partners, and we are in the process of building up a series of edge data centers across Asian cities in trying to connect up the digital economy in a different manner, following mostly all the major fiber players. My first project is actually in the island of Batam, which is about 20 minutes and very, very close to Singapore. So I look forward to talk to everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and glad having you, and exciting times for you, Kevin. So from Singapore, let's go to London. Martin.
Hello, actually I'm nearer Southampton rather than London, but I'm certainly in the UK. I'm Martin Atkinson. I'm the business development team for EMEA. I'm the senior manager for peering and interconnection. So purely an interconnection focus within the business development team.
Okay, thank you. And then it's just a short flight to Germany. Jens.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Jens Leuchters. I'm managing director at New Telco, basically over in Frankfurt. New Telco is a medium-sized system integrator for infrastructure, and infrastructure for us is data center, co-location, hardware, interconnection networks, and we do a lot of remote and warm hand support for our clients. We are private funded, so for us it's a very interesting topic, the green financing of new data center builds. I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you very much, Jens. And you know what? Most of the money around the world has the color green, so we should put this the green financing in the real perspective, actually, how we mean it. So thank you, Jens, for you as well, and then fantastic having you. So talking about the role of the data centers in the region and to meet the future demand, and of course the green financing, as we mentioned, I would like to invite Fahad Al-Harthi from Omantel to the stage to give us a quick presentation And we're more than happy to listen to you. And again, Fahad, thank you for sponsoring this session. Thank you so much. So I'll give the word to Fahad, and please enlighten us.
Thank you very much. Just to check, everyone can hear me. Yeah, it's Fahad again. As we were talking about the data center, let's talk about one of when it comes to data and how we connect these data centers and the reachability of these data centers and the ecosystem of these data centers within the Omantel strategy. To start with, as Omantel, we have the focus here is we have two subsidiaries, subsidiary and joint venture. Okay, Oman Delta Park is one of Omantel subsidiaries with a focus the local market, providing managed services, cloud services, and also security as a service. And when it comes to Equinix, MC1 in Oman, the focus of this data center is a game 50-50 between Omantel and Equinix, and the focus of these data center mainly is a hub for international traffic and bringing in international partners to trade and do business in this data center. Okay, when it comes to data center, a data center which is not connected, for sure it's not going to work. So we, as Omantel, we have a lot of cables, around 20 plus submarine cables, and these cables are 14 of these cables are landing in Oman, and all these cables will be extended to MC1, the data center, and here we're talking about connecting Middle East, Europe, and Asia, and Oman being in the middle. So this is the strategy of Omantel. Also connectivity, building submarine cables and terrestrial routes, and even within the neighboring country. Oman becoming a strategy hub in the region. Also an access for our competitor to access the data center. And even if this is going to harm or let's say they're going to take some of the business, but we want to create this neutral data center concept in the region and in our country. Also, we want open data center with no much of extra charges where everyone is welcome to come and trade and do business. Okay, Omantel, as I said, we talk about 20 plus submarine cables, and 14 of these cables are landing in Oman, and all these cables will be extended to the data center that we have and we are planning to have in the country. Global 11 global POPs, and also we talk about a dedicated wholesale support team, 24 hours a day. So Omantel as a gateway to many regions and to its spot being in the middle between Singapore and Europe. The data centers and the hubs that are going to be in Oman, and we're planning to have also later this presentation will explain. For example, we have multiple redundant systems to Europe and US, and Omantel France being in USA as a landing partner for our A1 cable. Arabian Peninsula being Oman in the middle also as a gateway to countries, and having terrestrial routes like KSA, Yemen, and UAE. East Africa, this is a new focus and it's in our pipeline, given more focus and investment. The first cable was due to and it's standing in Salalah, southern Oman. And also we're trying to serve the content cloud providers from that. Iran, we're considered as a gateway for any partner that want to reach Iran from our data centers, and we have multiple of cable systems that connect us with Iran directly. China, serving China to Pakistan, up north Pakistan. Also multiple cable routes we have with India. The same with Southeast Asia, and the best part here is Australia. This is one of the kind of projects that direct routes from Australia to Oman without any transit, they say, any Swiss cost or Singapore. So it's a direct point to point, and the traffic from Australia will be extended also via Omantel to Europe and US. I already touched point on this, that Omantel being Omantel strategy or neutral regional interconnect hub. And basically, we want to give more choices and options for our customer and potential customers also. We want to remove any challenges for our customer to deploy their network, deploy their POPs in the region. We want to remove any extra charges. We want to have a true hub for our partners. We also, to emphasize, also we want to have for our partner more of choices for them to fit their strategy in the region. Okay, so why this data center MC1 in Oman, and why it's Equinix and Omantel? First of all, let me start with Equinix. Equinix, they're one of the biggest data center operators in the world, with massive expertise and resources in managing those data centers around the globe. Also having a sales team to sell services in these data center on the ground everywhere. Okay, and also having a wide of products in their portfolio, like Colo, IX, Cloud Exchange, and also following up high standards whenever they in operating these data center. And so Equinix are bringing their expertise into this JV. Omantel being one of the biggest operator in the region, and also investing in a lot of cables currently, and will continue doing this. And having 14 cables lands in Oman, this for sure can expand and the footprint or the services that this data center can provide for its potential customers. Here this is my last slide. We want everyone to know that we're planning to have a second data center, and this mainly to serve Europe and Africa in southern one, that's in Salalah. Why Salalah? Salalah because Salalah is in the road to Europe and Africa, and in the corridor, and it will be easy for investor who are investing in submarine cables or consortium to land the cable in Salalah. So we're looking forward to in having Salalah as part of Omantel ecosystem. and looking forward to meet our partners and potential partners to invite them to MC1. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fahd. So far, it will be, I mean, very much, very exciting times, especially with the MC1 and what you just mentioned as well. Very nice to hear. Also, the expansion you will have in and from Salalah.
Yeah.
So exciting times are ahead, I guess, right?
True. And to add here also, we are really proud of whatever Equinix and Omantel are doing in MC1. And thanks to Martin and the team behind them. And imagine in less than a year, phase 1 was fully sold, and we are planning we're working on phase 2 now, and phase 2 with a total of 700 racks, and hopefully soon we'll start with phase 3.
So let's get the guys in there, Kevin, Jens, Robert here, and Martin, of course. Martin, you you have anything to add to the MC1 and what on your partnership?
No, I just echo what Fahad said, that I think we're extremely pleased with the way things are progressing at the moment. Omantel is a great partner, and they're very enlightened and on side with the mission here, and this runs very nicely on from the previous panel and the peering ecosystem discussion that we had, where we called out the various components, peering ecosystem requirements, and an enlightened approach from both regulators and from incumbent telcos, ISPs, is essential. We have that in Omantel, and it's a real pleasure to work with them. So yeah, the future is extremely exciting, and this increased submarine capacity that's being built out, new systems coming online, really is going to connect the world. The Middle East and obviously Gulf region is perfectly placed between Asia, Africa, Western Europe, and CIS. So basically, it's a perfect crossroads, and therefore this change and evolution really has to happen for the whole global economy.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So that's a quick snapshot. And Fahad, again, thank you very much for sharing your presentation with us here in Dubai and live around the world. So having said that, and setting the pace a little bit for this region, now we also have Kevin and Jens, which are on completely different other regions. So just to have a look at it quickly, Kevin, from an Asia point of view, I mean, you're based in just outside Singapore and expanding massively and rapidly. So what is the, let's say, the current landscape in Asia, and how can you compare it maybe with the knowledge you have to the MENA region, to the North African Middle East region?
Right. I think there's some comparison, but there are also some differences, but all of them are very positive. So one of the effective things that's happening in Singapore has always functioned as a hub with regards to telecommunication and the movement of digital data, and it's continued to grow. But there's a changing dynamics now, in the sense that the hub continued to function, but it's going to change over time, because we're seeing. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear
you. We can hear you.
So we're gonna see the dynamics of, because Singapore is a city, it's not a country. So what is happening is that the edge data centers are going to spread out from Singapore, both northwards and southwards towards Indonesia and across to Malaysia and Bangkok. And that's going to flatten out the hub, so to speak. But it's not going to take away the function of the hub. It's just changing the dynamic of the hub. And the reason is because Singapore is a city. Now, we're seeing that happening today rapidly. And the government of Singapore has defined a term called nearshoring of business, and whereby organizations are moving some of their data center function out of Singapore, the less the more heavy load and the network load will stay in Singapore. Now, at the same time, if you also look at the countries, and specifically, Indonesia has grown very fast over the last 3 and 4 years. The data centers have been building up mostly in Jakarta. But again, Jakarta is also flattening out because Indonesia is a huge country from east to west. It's as wide as the United States of America. We're beginning to see that within Indonesia itself, the hub, which is the small hub, is Jakarta, but we're seeing data center now spreading across to places where I'm going to, like Batam, and even to Medan, and all the way to Manado, which is at the other edge of the Indonesian archipelago. And from Manado, there'll be networks springing up to go to Guam. So this is an interesting time. But most interestingly for us here is that because of the political dynamics that's taking place in the South China Sea with America and China, we are rapidly seeing a new subsea cable route opening out between Singapore via Indonesia and going to Manado and going to Guam in the United States and passing Philippines. So we expect this new dynamic to create a lot of activity for the industry here. So there's a major change coming, and that will be really interesting for our region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, and exciting times in Asia. So let's go to Europe, Jens, and especially in Germany.
Yeah.
What's the situation there? What characteristics do you have on the landscape over there? And by the way, congrats with your latest initiative, Jens.
Thank you. But congrats goes first to Fahad and Martin for this fantastic new data center in the region, DC1. So good luck with the one, and I'm looking forward for phase 2, of course. So it's quite a logical step that Omantel and Equinix are doing in that region, because the data centers follows the good connectivity that you're already having in that area. And of course, then you need to have a hub to interconnect the networks to have a global or regional reach. And of course, it's the same drivers here in Germany, but of course, from the size of the country, it is completely different than Oman or in Singapore, what Kevin was just saying. So here in Frankfurt, where we are actually number 2 in data centers in Europe, and number 1 is the London, but the higher growth rate is in Frankfurt. So it's just a question of time when Frankfurt will be the data center capital in Europe, and following the IX capital of Europe. So also in Frankfurt, we host the largest IX globally, with peak traffic. I think the last stats I saw was close to 12 tera. It's huge, pretty huge, and it's constantly goes over 10 tera. So what you see here is that, of course, a lot of huge big data halls are getting built still. You know, companies like Equinix, Digital Reality, NTT, you name, really, there are really 5-6 big, large global organizations that are building huge data halls, and the main focus on is for sure hyperscalers and building data center for hyperscalers, which have an enormous demand here in Frankfurt, and again following the perfect network possibilities and interconnection possibilities. So that is, but you know, this is just one side, because not all of the business that goes into a data center is a hyperscaler, because also medium-sized companies, they do some business, or they give some data in for sure in the cloud, but not all data. So some data they want to keep on-premise, and on-premise they don't want to have in their own server or own data center anymore. So it's an interesting development, how the landscape is is built on two aspects. So we are building the very big data centers. They are very close in the city centers or surrounding the city centers. And companies like us, we are going a little bit more into the edge. So we are bringing the facility and the networks closer into the region. And therefore we are able to get those demand from small, medium-sized enterprises who do not want to go into a large city like Frankfurt. So we bring it close to our customers. And the data center alone is not enough, of course, right? If we just would have a data center without a very good connectivity in terms of capacity and in terms of interconnection capabilities, that data center would not make a lot of sense. And that's what you can see. So it's an interesting development in the region, where you have your huge capitals, data centers in the big cities, and you have smaller data centers across Germany in tier 2, tier 3 cities. That's a pretty interesting thing, and it's an important thing and signal, because it will also support the sustainability discussion, because we will be able to have more island solutions that we, for instance, can generate power exactly where we need it and where we can use it. So we don't even need long distance transport capability or expensive power storage solutions. We just produce the power where we need it. And that's in a data center of a scale that we are, for instance, having. So small, medium or mid-sized data centers. That makes a lot of more sense. If you consider you have a data center running a data center with 5 megawatt, you have a much higher ratio of green energy you can produce at your own rooftop, for instance, compared to a 100 megawatt data center. Because this is the ratio doesn't fit really well. So that's a pretty good and the right development, and it's driven by business, but it's also driven by zero carbon discussion a lot.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, or just some people around the world, were sitting in Glasgow, for 2 weeks discussing this topic. So moving into it, because I mean, especially nowadays, the world is full with green. Robert, maybe I can come to you just from a quick overview, and later on we'll move more, let's say, into the financing, the green financing. But just as a head start, what do you see as the current state and trends for a sustainable solution and green data centers? What do you see around the world?
Well, I mean, there is a very strong focus on the green or ESG financing aspects of everything we're doing. I mean, Natixis is known not only for its traditional corporate, but also for its infrastructure financing, of which telecom and technology. So what we are seeing is not only that, shall we say, the operators are looking to be very green and environmental friendly, but also there are the expectations from the clients. So you're looking at the hyperscalers, all of them, they are asking for carbon neutral support from their data centers. And in some countries, that's easier to comply with. If you're on Iceland, you have either hydroelectric or geothermal. So your data center is definitely financially, renewable. Cooling is much easier and more effective. You open the window, and it's very, very similar in the other Nordic countries. Come to Germany, the percentage of renewable energy is very limited, and in a bad day, there is no wind and no sun. So there is a struggle to run a data center in Germany and with the right carbon footprint. And there you have then the opportunity to exchange green certificates to supply that. And then at the same time, you have other powers that are, pushing individual countries to protect the data that is being produced in their country. They don't want it to leave. Well, then that may not be as possible, for example, for the large auto industry to have everything in Germany. So you see that many of them are parking some of their not so latent intensive business in the Nordic countries, because there they can get a shall we say, better green footprint on what they're doing. We're seeing new technologies or alternative technologies. For example, in Indonesia, we are familiar with a project where they're using liquid natural gas, not only to power the power unit, but also to cool the data center prior to burning it. We have been following, and personally I've been having the pleasure of sort of support Equinix when they established themselves in APAC 10-15 years ago. And then they did a roadshow together with Keith Taylor at the time. And we were sort of trying to explain how this data center thing was going to become something big. And it has become very, very big. And it's interesting today. We have been supporting from Natixis' point of view, we supported AirTrunk and their establishment in Singapore. Also a country which is very environmental aware. And there has been a moratorium for quite some time now for new establishment of data centers. And perhaps this is a question to Kevin, because I worked a little bit in Kochai Ong as well. We are seeing Singapore has been, shall we say, the data center for many countries in the region. But some of the countries like India, for example, they are now establishing and building up their own data center support. And the question is then, will Singapore take an opportunity to do more at home, or will this be perhaps a challenge for Singapore? Moving to Batam makes a lot of sense.
Kevin, maybe you want to quickly answer that.
Hi. Yes, hi. Thank you very much for doing that lead in. Yes, I think Singapore as a strategy, there's that we have to execute two strategies. One is to move some of the workloads out in order to meet the future demand of increasing energy requirement, but also to manage the fact that we will have limited but very expensive renewable energy. Singapore will have a renewable energy strategy in place, but we can't feed all the industry, so we have to prioritize. So the data center part, we may take advantage of our neighbors, and this is consistent. And remember, Singapore is a city state, so it's not a country like with a lot of landmass. So part of the process is therefore to be able to redistribute the workload and leverage the cloud architecture that's in place, which gives this distribution, and it also take advantage of the hub effect or all the fibers that cross connect Singapore. So essentially, this nearshoring process, it leverages on our strength. So on that basis, we will now be able to mitigate it. But at the same time, the data centers in Singapore will also need to be, we are very good at upgrading, right? So in Singapore, we upgrade everything. So it's now time in the next 10 years, you're going to see a major upgrade of all the old data centers in Singapore to be refurbished and to take advantage of new technologies and new requirements. So you're going to see that happen as well. So it's a two-pronged strategy. And the second prong is a little bit more complicated because we're now looking at what kind of customer technology will be required. We spoke at length about that. So we can see this happening in Singapore. And I believe this is also going to have a net, net effect to the rest of the economy around Asia. So in my view, it's a positive element. It requires us to rethink and to recalibrate ourselves in order for us as Singapore. That's what we always do to survive. So that's going to be natural to our DNA. So it's happening today as it stands. The moratorium is actually the reason there's a moratorium. It actually creates the situation for us to rethink really seriously, and that's what's happening today.
Thank you, Kevin. Talking about the sustainability, and let's move now to Fahad on and maybe as well on the design side as well, together and in partnership with, Martin and Equinix. what have you done? What were your thoughts behind, let's say, taking into account the sustainability, especially on the power side? It's maybe Fahad or Martin, maybe in.
I think that more of a question Martin maybe can answer. But for me,
maybe the idea with which Omantel as a partner had behind it, maybe.
Yeah. In general, the demand is there for more data centers. The consumption of power is increasing every time. So looking at green energy, it will happen as soon as whether now or later. But here in our region, we're considered we're not that mature. But the good part that we have certain protocol to follow on whatever we build. And whatever comes from, let's say, especially building or solution that produce a lot of, let's say, heat or and this is for example in Oman. You need an approval, let's say, from Minister of Environment, where they need to check whatever you're going to do, and I think whatever set of standard for sure will help, let's say, partners like Equinix to implement the green energy solution. Let's say even into MC1, especially MC1 is just a new data center being built recently, and even with the second phase. Looking at Singapore, when I was doing my reading regarding this session, for example, today we're talking about Singapore, where 7% of power consumption goes into data centers. And so we see an opportunity for investors. For sure, there'll be more and more investors interested to invest into green solutions, especially for data centers, to maximize the efficiency of these data centers. And we can see with the new technology, the new apps, the new solutions, with the 5G, more data to be stored and to be processed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Martin, something to add with regards to the MC1?
Yeah, I'm funny enough, someone was asking about construction of a facility that we're just launching next year in Manchester, which couldn't be further away from Muscat, really. But but you know, what's the Equinix standard design? And the truth of the matter is that the Equinix standard design has constantly changed to adopt. You know, the objective is always lower PUE, higher power density. Squeezing waste and inefficiency out of the powering and cooling systems to meet the the long-term kind of climate change objectives that we have. Equinix will be net carbon neutral by 2030, and the process involves heavily both kind of like the direct bit that we've got control of, which is obviously the power and cooling. And so the design is continually evolving and morphing according to technology changes becoming available. And we usually leverage any natural features that are available geographically. I was just looking, panicking there a bit, because you asked us about the actual site spec say for MC1. And it's using air cooling, which is not something you'd intuitively think in Muscat, but you know, the science is always leads our policy in terms of how we build the next generation of data centers. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Martin. And talking about, you know, from a design point of view, Jens, I know you're on building your new data center, and if I'm not mistaken, it's almost ready. But I mean, from a sustainability point of view, what I do know is that you did not put down, let's say, a new building, but you used an old building, which a lot of people forget, because building the building is, you know, trying to be as sustainable as possible is also, let's say, an issue. So maybe you could say something about, let's say, the sustainability with from a design point of view, what New Telco did.
Yeah. So first of all, ready for service is planned for second half 2020. So we are a little bit ahead, so still in the construction. So I mean, to pick up to add what Martin was saying. So of course, what drives us, right? How can we get a better PUE, and how can we have a higher capacity load in the data center? But then also, how green we can become. So now the first and foremost thing for us, right, was bio build, right? So then our decision was that we were buying an existing hall. It was a logistic hall instead of building one. But again, you have to see it in the right context, because of the size data center we are building. That is for us, of course, much easier, and there are more chances and possibilities that you are finding a building that fits into your size and your criteria. It's much higher than if you compare with large data center, data hall companies which are building huge data halls, and simply you don't have these buildings available. Nevertheless, it helps us to save up to 70% of the carbon, because it's already in the concrete. So that's a matter of fact, right? But it's nice because we just have it. We did nothing for that ourselves. It's just the fact that we purchase an existing building. So the problem now is, for us, how can we get a better PUE? That's about using the latest technology that is available. So there are a variety of different, and cooling is the biggest, of course, is the biggest objective in a data center, and there are a lot of different providers and the latest, and using the latest technology. Are you doing hybrid between air cooling and water cooling? Or you just go water cooling? And of course, and at the end, right, you have to make a balanced decision that fits all criteria. Company of our size, privately funded, of course. So probably, our target is to have a PUE of about 1.25, which is still foreseen as a high efficient PUE. You get offerings on the market that promise you sub 1.2, of course, but then again, it always, what is your load in the data center when it starts to be, when it's your operation become efficient, and of course, so, and there's always a next generation of hardware of cooling systems developed. So we made a decision that has balanced all aspects as good as we think. So yes, we are of course not carbon neutral, and I'm interesting to understand how a data center will be ever carbon neutral, because what are we doing? We are using power for what? We are running servers, and they need to be cooled. We need cooling. So that's it. So, I like to always think, because there seems to be a discussion about data centers are the big power consumers. Yes, we are, but don't forget that we are getting, we are centralizing things. And if I get 10 customers that have today running all their little old style legacy IT rooms or in-house data centers, right, where you have this high floor carpet, and you have a dripping aircon in the corner, there is an efficiency that is far above 2. So we are pushing the industry. So and we are centralizing this. Of course, yeah, we have more we are building more cloud infrastructure because of new business models are around the market. And consumer and customers are love to use it. So, but you know, if you stream music, of course you need a cloud provider. But if you stream music, you're not buying a CD anymore. So you are saving on the other side. You are saving, you know, plastic and other important material. So I think we as an industry, we have to voice it a little bit further out. Yes, we are consuming, but on the other hand, we are saving. And you know, we will, and I hardly see any other industry that is trying to be as carbon neutral as we do. And that's something we need to raise our hand to our customers and also to the governments and to the politician decision makers. Say, look, guys, we are really pushing it to the edge, right? And sometimes I don't see that as valued.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Yes, and I think, yeah, I mean, my best advice, of course, to any company looking to make any kind of investment in and telecom and data centers is to work with someone like ourselves, because we've been following and been working on green financing for, I don't know, 15 years as well. And I think in 2019, we were probably named as one of the leaders in arranging green financing. And what we're doing is that we are taking a holistic view on everything that is going on, and we are taking into consideration what you were just mentioning about changing existing technology for newer technology. So we arrange financing on, shall I say, ESG criteria for embetterment. It does not necessarily need to be entirely carbon free if it cannot become carbon free, as you correctly. But if you are improving, if you're making it more efficient, if you can access more greener technologies and maybe improve the efficiency in your data center or your telecommunication, that's what we do. We have something between 25 and 40 people in the group working full time on supporting our clients, both equity investors, debt investors, operators, in every aspect of infrastructure financing, because it is extremely important, not only to us as a bank, but also for us as people in this little world. So this is a very important part. We make sure that staff in the bank is incentivized to support green initiatives. We have, shall we say, to make our clients being incentivized, we are also giving various forms of bonuses in terms of reduction of pricing as and when improvements are taking place. This is creating a market which is significant. Last year, we were talking about $600 billion of ESG financing. We passed 500 billion in the summer, so we are likely to be about $1 trillion in ESG related bonds. And this is now becoming a very, very big thing. I mean, our debt investors, equity investors, they are looking for projects where they can support improvements in the environmental benefits and social benefits. And since it is, shall I say, one of our pillars of our activities, it is something that's very close to our heart. So yes, I do get the question every single time I'm presenting a file. This 22 megawatt data center, how is that being powered? And of course, we try to find solutions. In some cases, as I mentioned before, Iceland, yes, easy. Other countries, not so easy. But then we are doing, shall I say, our utmost best to support, to show that this activity is now taking away, not perhaps a CD manufacturing, but anything that can prove that this is actually for the betterment, whether it is just making a phone call instead of jumping into the car, which is also a way of saving the environment. But we do it in every possible way, and also here in the Middle East. So we are looking at data center financing, whether they are going through, shall we say, well-established companies like Equinix, or whether it is new startups that are trying to create, shall we say, carrier neutral operations in the region. And every time we get the same question, how are they seeing power in the Middle East? Well, fortunately, it's sunny outside, but we are definitely doing our very best to make sure that we contribute to the activities of you as operators, investors, vendors, and other interested parties.
No, and as you, thank you, Robert. And as you said, I mean, you know, the situation of power, and because a lot of people, they only look, let's say, data centers. Yeah, they're huge powerhouses and they use a lot of power, but it's also, as we mentioned before and talked about it, it's also on the design and from the design and whatever. And for instance, like New Telco is, you know, the heat giving back to the community, and you know, that community can use it. So there are more ways to get to you know, and to be sustainable. But for instance, in Germany, I mean, the price of power is enormous, if it's not one of the highest in the world. And yes, Iceland and Norway, you know, because of the natural habitat, they, you know, they benefit from yeah, of course, almost 100% green power. So everybody needs to do, and Jens, I agree with you. Everything comes to a certain point, and everybody needs to do whatever he can in his power. So I agree with you guys. Now, Robert, going a bit more into the financing, and what do you think? How does green financing help data center operators to meet their long-term sustainable goals? And what obstacles do you further see? Because you mentioned already a couple of them.
Yeah.
Do you see further that they're facing by implementing sustainable data center solutions? So yeah. a double, quite mixed question.
I mean, partially I passed through that aspect when responding to what Jens was saying, but I think the advantage is that as you're sitting down and planning your project, whether you're an equity investor, you're an existing operator, is to sit down and say, okay, how do we go about this? And from an engineering point of view, I'm sure you're already sort of having that in as an efficiency aspect. But it's also client demands. I mean, particularly if we are looking at the large corporates, every large corporate today has an ESG policy. They don't want to be seen as using the services of a data center that is running less than optimal. So naturally, it's a question of being competitive as well for a data center operator or vendor. I am providing you with a product that is going to make it easier for you to find clients. So we are all part of, shall we say, the same chain here. Naturally, what we are thinking about from a financing point of view is also how it would appeal to investors. I'm talking about debt investors. And we are looking at all the large pension funds, all the large life insurance companies, etc., that are looking to place company monies that we are placing with them today for the future. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to be involved in ESG financing, and that's so what we are doing with our clients, whether it's at the early stage, showing them how to arrange the financing, is that we help to go through, shall we say, the green footprint on the particular investment that is taking place. And we're not only looking at the efficiencies of what you're doing right now, but also what it replaces. And that way you can sort of feed it from the beginning all the way to the time when you are approaching your investor base to seek the capital for that investment. It's not happening overnight, but I mean, a bond issue anyway takes anything between 3 to 6 months. So adding the green aspect into that process does not extend the period of time. So you do it and we work together with our clients. And of course, I have to say that when you come with an Icelandic data center, you can see a smile on the face of the people we're talking to, but not every data center is in Iceland. So we try to make sure that each region, and that's why we have people in the different regions, we're making sure that each of them is getting the service of right.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Now let's move a bit more, let's say, slowly to the future. What trends do we see? And not only on let's say on the green side, if I may say so, but maybe on financing because that's changing is changing as well all the time. So Kevin, maybe from your point of view, and maybe a bit more from your region in our beautiful world, what trends do you see? What's out there?
Hi, yeah,
Is
you're
that the
talking
landscape, of
about
course?
green. You're talking about the trends towards green financing, is that right?
Not only that, no, just in general, the data center
Oh, I see.
landscape. So what are you seeing? And if there is, let's say, significantly, you see something on the green financing as well, then please.
Yes, I think that there's a in the region, or at least in Singapore, we're beginning to see a fundamental question that we ask, that we can't be efficient, we can't be green on our own. We are starting, most of the data center operators are beginning to realize that we in order for us to achieve the kind of PUE we want, it is time for us to collaborate with our customer. Remember, PUE is a ratio between IT load and total load. Sometimes the customer don't use up all the load, but we design it for a maximum load. So automatically, the real PUE cannot be achieved compared to the design PUE. So this is a gap between our customer expectation and what we designed for them. So there are a lot of discussion that we're now having to say that it's time for the industry for us to talk to our customer to align the requirement nicely in order for us to be more efficient. That's one trend of thought that's going on. The other one is we keep talking about electricity, but the big discussion we beginning to see is how efficient are we in managing how we get rid of the heat? And we're forgetting that at the end of the day, it is the heat that when we get rid of, which gets pushed out into the air, that is actually the naughty bit about us. It's not about the electricity and efficiency. So a lot of people don't realize that when I cool down my server, I transport that heat and it goes to a thing called water tower, because it's an open loop system, and then I eject the heat into the atmosphere. Now, it's okay when your data center is small, but when you're hyperscale data center and when you have a whole group of data center in a city footprint, you could create a major temperature difference to the atmosphere because you're shooting out all this hot air. I have seen that in Finland, they've done something wonderful, and only in Finland I've seen it. They've taken all this hot air, which is not good enough to do anything else, but they've converted actually it's not the hot air, they've taken the hot water, instead of ejecting it to the atmosphere, they repackage it and they sell the hot water to residences in a totally different network. So that heat is now being reused effectively, and instead of being ejected to the environment. So I only seen this done in Finland in a very systemic way. Now, I think this is something we need to start learning in data center country where we have loads of data center, that we forget that the cooling function is the one that also become very naughty with regards to us not being green enough. So I think there's a lot more work for data center operators like us to learn and to work with our respective government to see how we're going to handle that as well, besides the electricity.
Okay, now because you're right, it's not only to look at the usage of the power, but also what's coming out of the exhaust. So Jens, maybe
very nicely put.
So Jens, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this one and how you are helping the environment in solving this, because Finland is not the only country where innovative things come from. And maybe you can tip as well a little bit on let's say what trends you see in general of which is heading towards us.
Yeah. So money for green data centers is available a lot. So financial institutions, and I see it, right? There are a lot of financial institutions knocking our door, and they would be more than happy to financing us and even to get bigger and build bigger. That, not our scope, but nevertheless, there is a lot of money available to the industry pushing this. because there are funds behind them. And of course, you know, the fund goes to the community and they would like to make money out of course. So the money is available and it's not just a trend because, you know, everybody understands that we need to change something. So it's fundamental. So we are not taking this because this is just our own style that we finance our data center by our own, but other data centers take the money, of course. So, and to say what was Kevin was just saying, so yeah, so come to Frankfurt, please, and you would be very surprised how what we are doing, because, you know, if you think about, and I think it should be, well, you know, Frankfurt, if you look at Frankfurt and you have a pretty small city, right? So I'm not sure how much of you guys knows, but Frankfurt is, you might think it's a mega city, but it's only 750,000 people living in that city. So the geographical area of that city is not that big. So what does it mean? Of course, more and more people are moving into the city. So the residential areas and the data centers are coming more and more closer together. So, you know, some of the data centers are in 100, 150-year-old industrial areas, and they are more and more becoming residential areas. So that is always the good and the bad, because, you know, who wants to have a data center as its neighbor? So not many people like to have that. But
easy to charge my car. I don't know.
Exactly. So now we are talking. So now we are talking. So exactly, that's the thing. So you can charge your car, number one, but the more important thing is the heat that we are. And it's, by the way, it's I'm not sure. I think Equinix is planning it as well. So using the heat to from the cooling system. And there is at least 2 projects in Frankfurt where this heat is used via pipes and pumps to heat the apartments. And that is a campus with a couple of 100 apartments. So, and that's things we are doing already here. Equinix is building a data center which has a completely green, or build it, I think it's called IBX 8 in Frankfurt. They have a full green facade. So it looks amazing. It looks amazing, and it helps a lot to reduce the carbon. So the whole industry is, and this is what I'm saying, the whole industry and their different regions have different challenges. That's because from the climate, from, you know, how is it in the city? Is it a far bigger area? You have a lot of sun in Oman, of course, beautiful for you, right? So Iceland, you know, it's better. Austria has a lot of water plant power. So, you know, you see there are a lot of different, and that's, but the market is so big that yeah, all together and all the building and all the data center builds we are doing will support sustainability at all.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Martin, anything to add to that quickly?
No, absolutely. What was just been said there, yes. Amsterdam Science Park, the heat generated by the data centers there actually heats the student accommodation for the university in Amsterdam. So yeah, that's a good strategy. One thing that I think we have to say is, firstly, data centers are so visible in terms of power consumption. We're always going to be the #1 target, especially as data center growth is continuing apace. I think we need to make a lot of inroads in communicating with governments to make sure that we have a proper joined up policy, and our role is understood and incorporated into a much bigger discussion about global warming. And we should never forget that there is, as Kevin said, there is carbon neutrality and then there's climate neutrality, and they're 2 very different things. And although everyone's focused on carbon neutrality and offsets and getting diesel out of the power generation, etc., in the longer run, I think the focus will switch towards thermal emissions and climate neutrality. But that's for the future, and we need to be ahead of the curve and predicting all this and working against it.
Robert? anything to, and then maybe on the trends of green financing, maybe there's still something up your sleeve you didn't tell us.
No, I think I've tried to be as comprehensive as possible, but I agree with what Martin said. We need to sort of deploy our best and brightest in communicating the message that we want to have to the market, that telecom and technology is there to help. It's not all evil, and what we are doing in managing data center efficiencies in terms of how we are planning them, how we are using the sort of excess heat in a smart manner. I mean, I'm so old, I remember when the heating was coming on remote from a nuclear power plant's cooling system. So it's not everything is not new, but you can actually apply the same logic as you have done in the past. And if you do it efficiently, you will not only be more attractive to your customers, but the way that we can raise financing to support the expansion becomes so much easier because common message. And I mean, I'm very happy to say that from our institution, data center financing, as long as we are being involved in the way that it's being produced and the operators are efficient and the clients are demanding, we are getting good support from the institution because benefits outweighs, shall we say, the perceived high consumption of electricity because it replaces so many other things that would consume more power.
Thank you. Okay, Fahad, maybe some famous last words from your side. What do you see? What can we expect? What's out there, and what will come to us, which we still don't know.
Okay.
Still don't see.
To be honest. Okay. I fully agree with Robert that the ECG and the policy will be there, and it will reach a point where in lending or getting, let's say, a finance from investors, this will be one of the mandatory terms. Also agree with Jens that there's a lot of investors are interested to invest. In our region, going back to our region, for sure everyone is knowing that there's a lot of initiative in the government level where there's smart cities, and for me, I'm seeing that those smart cities and with data center will be will see synergy with green societies, and this for sure can help a lot, and and by default solve the issue. Whatever comes from let's say from the smart cities, data center will be used by the society. The demand for sure after the pandemic and everyone going from on premises to data center and adopting clouds, the demand will increase, the data center use will increase for sure, and the solution for a new solution will be there also. So the demand will be there, and more data center we're going to see in the near future in our region. This is what we can see also from meeting our partners, our potential partners, and that's they wanna come and invest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I see we went 10 minutes, more than 10 minutes over time. I would like to thank first of all the audience here for being here and taking your time. Thank you so much. And also out there, greetings from all of us here from the warm and nice Dubai to all of you out there in the world. And then of course, Jens, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time. Kevin as well, love your background, man. Keep the Bali background up there because we would all like to go to swim and be on the beach. So well done, Martin. To England, greetings from us here, and thanking for you very much for being on the first and here on the second panel. So thank you very much for your time. Robert, always an honor having you, and thank you so much. And Fahad, thank you so much for being here, your keynote presentation, and sponsoring this this webinar live session here from the GCCM in Dubai. So guys, a big thank you to all of you. Stay tuned today because we're going to talk about messaging. We're going to talk about women in tech today. So stay tuned, stay with us. GCCM Caring Community is here for you. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.